This is the Doubtless podcast, here to help you change from a state of doubt and insecurity towards a more calm, confident, and doubtless self. This time I had the pleasure talking to Alex Salinsky. He makes businesses stronger and takes owners out of operational grind and into executive ownership. He personally works with 5 to 8 companies per year and has given talks and workshops around the world. Note, he's also a digital nomad. And in the last year, he lived with a tribe in the Amazon, meditated with monks, and was beat up by a girl in Brazil. As this suggests, we had an amazing blend of topics, from business tools and tactics to magic, mission, and spirituality. He always had a story ready to drop and was willing to open up and share vulnerably how he felt in his path in life. And one thing stuck out with me, which is that he tries to experience as much as possible in 1 year. So much that others usually experience in 1 decade. Let's get into this amazing episode with Alex Salinsky.
A lot of the work I do, I bring in relational elements, and I learned a lot of that through things like therapy, psychology, understanding human nature. And I have a client who's very funny. She says, this is a business. Isn't it just supposed to be business? Why do I have to worry about all these things humans are saying? And we have a conversation about how, well, there are humans in the business and you're serving humans and you are a human. And so a part of that, a part of growing as a professional and growing as a leader is understanding the relationship that we have with others and the relationship we have with ourselves. And so we work through that a little bit. I'm not a therapist, psychologist, or even life coach, and yet that kind of work comes in. That kind of feeling our feelings a little bit comes in.
Yeah, so like how I see it quite often is also that not only looking at the numbers and focusing on the business, but quite often organizations are people. So if the organization is not running well, then something is going on with the people quite often too. And so from the psychologist's perspective is, if the people are happy and working well, then things are just quite often working out smoothly. You can connect business ideas with each other, and all of these things that are maybe sometimes hard to measure are those human things. And yeah, it's a tricky thing, but I think it's very interesting to look at these things, and awesome that you I guess put emphasis on that. And I checked out a lot of your stuff that you post on social media as well, and noticed that there is quite a big component that is going towards business, and some of the stuff that I don't really understand what you're talking about scaling up and so on. But I see, like, shining through is a lot of the aspects of understanding humans, of understanding founders and their struggles and their needs, and how you can cater that to that and help them to service whatever they need.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we look at 3 parts. So we look at always the tactics, right? What to do, what to actually do. But the tactics are supported by strategy and principles. The strategy and principles are supported by the mission. What is it? Why are you doing this? What did you hope you would be doing? And then through all of that is, what's the relationship you're going to have with yourself throughout it and with other people throughout it. So those things intermingle. And sometimes I'm a person who I just want to do the thing. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. So I'm very like tactics oriented. But if we just worry about the tactics, then we don't understand why we're doing it. So we're missing the principles, we're missing the strategy understanding. If we just do the tactics, we forget that there are other people involved. We just do the tactics, we forget that we had a purpose in doing this long-term vision of what our life would be like, what the business would do for the world. We lose all of that. So it's tactics and everything that surrounds and supports it.
That's awesome. So like quite a holistic perspective of the whole
Yeah.
business. Yeah.
I think about it as almost like philosophy, principles, action.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Lots of principles, actions. All right. So we started right into it, just with business now instantly. But I want to start bringing back or pulling back this quote that you wrote to me, which is, I'm working on believing in magic, and I believe that therapy and forgiveness might be time travel. You gotta tell me what you mean by that.
Yeah. Well, they're almost two different ideas, but the one is, I'm a person who really wants to break down what I think is the truth of something. So I want to, I get too particular. I get lost in, but is it really true? Is it line up with the facts? Um, and I think the way that we perceive what the world is and what's happening in the world is really important, and it creates our personal truth. It creates our experience of the world. So the the way we choose to see what's happening around us, the way we guess what's going on inside someone else's head changes our perception of reality, and then that changes the way we act, and then that changes our reality. And so I think that's just true. And I think learning learning forgiveness or learning to look at the past in a different way, to reinterpret the past, in a way changes the past because it changes the way we act and changes the way we operate. And there's a magic to that experience. Something that existed in one way transforms into existing in a different way.
That's what you see as magic. That if you perceive that what happened in the past differently, you act differently, things change, and therefore, essentially, that's magic. That's how magic happens.
Yeah. I mean, maybe magic's like a transformation.
Yeah,
There there wasn't a rabbit and now there's a rabbit. There's a transformation there. And so if my whole reality transforms, there's a feeling of magic that comes with that.
Hmm, that's fantastic. I should take that for my marketing materials. I
It's
love it.
yours.
And when you describe, I believe that therapy for forgiveness might be time travel. What do you mean by that? The same or
I
similar? That if you go
Similar,
back in the
yeah.
past.
Similar. Like, yeah, the past in a way the past changes. My experience of the past changes, so the past changes. The literal actions that happened are the same, but so much of what is objectively true is colored in our perception. And so if I think this is the investigation or the fight that I'm in with myself,
Mm-hmm.
which is I want to feel that there's an objective truth.
Mm-hmm.
And there is an objective truth. X happened, right? But my experience is not just the objective truth of what happened, but all the interpretations I have around that and the interpretations of other people have around that. And so changing the interpretation changes the holistic truth. One part of the whole truth is the objective truth, this thing happened. Another big part of the whole truth is I feel this way about it, or people reacted to it in this kind of way. That's a part of the whole truth. And so when I change my perception, if I change the way I act around it, then it becomes a different truth.
Do
And I
you
think
have
that's the transformation.
Yeah? Do you have an example for that? Because I think it's quite meta, but I think I fully agree. But do you have an example for that when that happened to you?
Yeah, I mean, I had a difficult relationship with my mom, and there are things that I I looked at the way she acted when I was younger in adolescence as being harsh or disconnected. Um, and her as being this like person who doesn't care, who acted intentionally, is mean. And years later, we connected on this, and for a while, I would challenge her. I said, "It was like you did it like this, and it wasn't right." And she would bring me excuses, and she would say, "Well, you have to understand the world was like this, and I was having difficult times." Um, and so I would just be in this fight with her of uh, uh, I don't know, is like a monster on some level. And then she just apologized one day. Just apologized without excuses. She just said, "I was doing the best I could. Um, and I'm sorry that things went the way that they did. And I wish it could have been better." And I remember when that happened, I was kind of happy and sad and angry about it, because what do I do now? Now that this person, I can't look at this person like a monster or that they have monstrous attributes, but this is a real person. I see this person as a real person. What do I do now with that? It changes everything. And now the color, the lens that I look back on all the past, I look through the lens of, I'm sorry, I did the best I could. It wasn't what I would have wanted it to be.
Wow. That was a big change, I presume.
Yeah, I think so. And that transforms the reality. That transforms my understanding of my own upbringing. That transforms the relationship with my mom and how I see her as a person. So it's pretty big. That's time travel.
I love it. I have a quote from a coach that I was going to a lot of workshops, and he said it in German, but in English it's essentially similar. It's
Mm,
never too late to have had a good childhood
mm,
because of that time travel. You can go
yeah.
back and reiterate, hey, what happened really? If my mom maybe already died, how can I still forgive her for that? That's where
Mm,
your forgiveness comes in. Such a powerful thing to go back in time, imagine yourself being there, and in time, they forgive yourself.
yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that. There's a therapy, I guess, it's a therapy technique called reparenting.
Hmm.
And so it's someone can walk you through a sort of visualization exercise where you take yourself back to the time that you're a child and you see yourself maybe even as a baby. And over the course of this visualization, meditation, sometimes they're physical movements, you you get to make a choice. You can say to the baby version, the infant version of yourself, you're safe and I leave you in the care of these parents, these adults. Or you can say, you're safe and I will take you in my care. I will take the infant version of myself into my own care. Um, and it's another version of, is that literally true? Right? Is it objectively true that I can be the parent to my infant self? It's
Hmm.
not objectively physically true, yet I can have that relationship with myself, which is very much true. I can choose that. Or I can choose to give the trust to, back to my parents again
Have you
and
done that
trust that they're
exercise
doing
for
the best that they
yourself?
can. Yeah, I did it with help.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it helped you transform that relationship too?
I think I'm thinking about that. It definitely helped me transform my relationship with myself and the world, where sometimes if I've discovered that some part of me feels unsafe in the world, um, I've been acting out of a lack of feeling safe, then this allows me to find a feeling of safety again. That there's stuff going on inside of us when we're out there acting in the world, and we think that we're so conscious of our decisions. When you start to do work like this, you may begin to see that the way you're acting in the world is influenced by something, by perceptions of the world that you're not aware of. And so if I was acting in the world out of some small perception that I'm maybe inherently unsafe in it, then this allows me to work with that feeling. And as you ask that question, does it change my relationship with my parents? I probably don't feel like they owe me
Hmm.
as much as I did in the past. Like, you have to fix what you did. You have to reconcile for what you did or did not do. Um, Now I say, "Oh, I own this now. So I'm responsible for it." And so I don't come back to my parents looking for them to take responsibility for something that they ultimately cannot take responsibility for.
Oh, that's strong. So what I see now that or hear in there is like the taking responsibility for the expectation that you have maybe for your parents or for other people
Yeah.
in your environment. And that is such a powerful thing. And I think really underestimated, especially when I'm working with a lot of clients. and they get into a finger pointy
Mm,
state that are like, oh, they wronged me, they did something wrong to me, and changing that to taking responsibility. Oh, that's my expectation how they should act, no matter
mm-hmm,
how what they did. It might be um, morally not right. It might be really bad what they did, and the common sense in the world. However, it's your expectation that you had that they should have acted differently.
mm-hmm.
And if you change that to, okay, that's what they did, can I still love them? Can I
Yeah.
still be empathetic to them or kind to them? Then you take the responsibility and the power back to you, and you can
Mm-hmm,
act from a completely different and more sort of self-directed perspective. Because otherwise, it's just power to the others, and whatever they do, they make you feel bad. So you give the
yeah.
power away to the other people. If they do something you didn't like and you feel bad, you gave them essentially the power to do that.
Yeah. I like that. And should, like they should have done this, should or they should do this now. Should is a fight with reality. It's like fighting the ocean. You can't win. And so should it's like if someone should be doing something, you can say, yeah, they should be doing it. They're not. It should be like this. Okay, maybe it should. Maybe you're right. This should not have happened. Maybe you're right. It should not have happened. It did. Now what?
Fight with reality. It's like you're not, whatever you wanted or your expectations were are not
Hmm.
met. And then you can decide whether you want to fight against that and say, but the person should have done that in the past, and you're living actively in the past and want to change what happened in the past. Or you can go back into this responsibility mode and create this reality that
Yeah.
actually is happening. It's like, okay,
This ha-
this happened.
Mhm.
Forget about it. Now in the future, or now in the present moment, I want to do something different about it.
Yeah. This happens even in the workplace. And so you'll have a leader who delegates something and the work isn't done to the leader's standards. And the leader says, they should just know this. It should be common sense. And then the conversation we have is there's no such thing as common sense and they don't know it. You feel that they should know it, but the evidence is that they don't. So let's do something about it. What are we going to do about it? We could be mad that they don't know it. They should, but they don't. So what are we going to do?
And is that a common thing that you encounter when you work with clients, with business leaders or founders, that the the expectation versus reality gap?
It can be. It can be. I think a lot of times it's, I know this process or thing about this business so well in my head. I'm so aware of it. It's so clear to me that I'm surprised when it's not clear to others. So when something's so clear to us that it's obviously true because we've been so inside of it for so long, or it's our business, so it's our baby, right? And we're with it every day. It's our reality, and we get confused sometimes when people don't understand the reality that we have when they're not so clearly in it. So that happens quite a lot in different ways. Yeah. Another place where that happens is when a smaller company or a newer company is ready because they're getting so much great business and they're having such success to invite more people onto their team. And so they've had a founding group of 5 to maybe even 50 people. And all those people know exactly how this business works, but there aren't, for example, clear established roles or clear established expectations of how things happen. They didn't need them up until now because everyone was doing this thing together and they were innovating together and they're making the composition of this company, the musical piece that is this company together. And so it's just intuitive to them and their relationship together. But when they invite someone in from the outside, they weren't there. They weren't here for all of that. And so it will be surprising to the originating team that the new person doesn't just get along and doesn't just fit right into what's happening. Isn't it so obvious where you stand in the process? No, it's not. They weren't here. They weren't here. And so
Hmm.
one of the things that I work on with companies that are expanding is how do we onboard people effectively? How do we make sure that they're set up for success, that they can get into the flow?
Hmm. Then talk to me about marrying missions.
Yeah. Marrying missions is a concept that I work by when expanding teams or also driving performance. And it's funny because expanding teams and driving performance to me is the same thing. I have trouble separating them. A lot of people, they'll say, how do I recruit? How do I get people onto the team? And then later they'll say, how do I drive the performance? And they're not, to me, they're not separate. You're going to use the same processes for both. If you know what performance and success is and what's going to motivate the people who are with you and what you're up to, you start that conversation when you are hiring, when you're deciding what kind of roles to hire, when you're interviewing people, you talk to them about what we're up to here, and you carry that through all the way to a performance conversation 3 years later. So to me, it's all the same conversation, just at different points in time. Marrying missions is the idea that the organization has a goal, and it might be the whole mission of the organization to have whatever impact on the world, or it could be the quarterly initiative. And so the organization has that and then starts delegating out the work, assigning out the work and says, hey, person, I need you to do this. Now, the person may or may not be invested in that particular action. That's okay. Probably the person has their own mission, their own reasons to be in the company. So we want to look at matching the mission of the organization and the mission of the person. So what might a mission of a person on our team be? It might be to have a similar impact, to support the impact of your company on the world. I'm so excited to be here and do the thing that this company does. But it could also be I wanna have a promotion from I wanna move myself up from developer or independent contributor to a manager position like an architect or a lead design position. I wanna see my career path move forward, or I wanna better support my family. I wanna do this work in such a way that when I go home, I can be really be with my family or bring them financial support or emotional support. So if I start to work with my team to understand what they actually want in their life, I can start to show them how working on the objectives of the company align to their personal objectives. So I can say, "Hey, the company has a mission to increase profits 17%. Why do you care about that?" Well, you have a mission to bring more financial security into your household, or you have a mission to um, do work that's like this work, to do more design work, and here's more design work, or you have a mission to build your skills up in such a way that you could argue that you're qualified to be a manager or an architect or at this higher level of career performance. If I can make that direct connection, I'm marrying the missions together. That's different than you need to get on board here. You need to be on my mission here. I want you to be on my mission if you're in my company. I want you to understand what we're doing and be on board with that. But but saying you need to, get on board or get off the train is different than saying, look, you're not going to 100% vibe with my mission because my mission supports me. But you have a mission and it's aligned. And if I can show you the alignment, we can marry those missions and we both move forward together.
What was one of the most significant changes that this concept has brought to you or your clients?
Well, I can share. I mean, when it changes the paradigm, so it changes this feeling of I'm the boss and I hired you. So could you do the thing I hired you for? Why aren't they doing the thing I hired them for? Right? It changes the longevity of the relationship. So it changes the spirit of the relationship between the team and the company, and it changes the longevity. People will stay a lot longer because they feel emotionally supported. They feel good. I feel good about being here. How many times have people been in a position, and well, maybe just the lucky ones of us, where they've gotten a job offer that paid better, for example, paid better than where they're at, but they said, I don't want to go because I'm so supported here. An example is in my own career. I really valued when I was working for other companies, I really valued mentorship. And so there is a point when a very well-funded startup offered me a job to move from the job I was at. And they offered me a I don't know, like a 15% increase in salary, not insignificant increase. And I considered it. And then I looked at that company of about 5 people And I looked at my company of 55 people that I was in, and I remembered that every week, the C-suite, the CEO, the COO, the CMO, all of them invited me to attend a meeting where they went over the future of the company and I got to be present for it. And they individually took interest in me. And I had this like level of mentorship and responsibility and trust that I wasn't going to get at another place. And I said, it's just not time to leave yet because of what I get out of this company that has nothing to do with money. So that's one example of how that works. That my mission was to be stronger at being a career professional. And this company's mission was to create software, create basically online learning platforms for other companies. They're two different missions, but the way they treated me when they gave me work and how they coached me through it supported my mission. So that's a marriage of missions.
Oh wow, cool. So that describes, I think, really well the to keep the motivation of a person inside the
Mm,
company. And I noticed that for myself too when I see a company and they would just go for, oh, we make decisions right now for increasing or maximizing gains and profits. I'm like,
mm,
yeah, but where's the people? Like, where do
yeah.
you take the people with you? And I've been
And we
also,
can do both.
yeah.
We can do both, and I think there's that people go from it's either or, so it's like we care about profits over people or we care about people over profits. It's not either or, you have to do both. An example of this comes up a lot. So, um, a lot of early stage organizations have people doing everything, and so there are no roles. It's just like you're here, you do the work, throw it over to Jen, and Jen's gonna take care of whatever it is. And that's fine in a smaller organization. A bigger organization needs a structure to it. And so it's what does the organization needs? Well, the organization needs whatever the role is. The organization needs video editing to happen. And I come and I say, um, I don't want to do video editing. I want to focus more on, I don't know, something else, writing newsletters. Well, right now the organization doesn't need newsletters. It needs video editing. So if you're here and we hired you to do something like video editing and you're saying you prefer to do newsletters, we don't need newsletters. You can't be here. So that issue of like for the organization to support the people there have to support the organization, right? It's a loop. So we just it is people based, but if we let people do whatever they want or say yes to whatever they want or no to whatever they want, the organization will not live long enough to support the people back.
So it's really a back and forth, noticing, okay, what are the interests of the people? And at the same time, how can you adjust continuously so the business is still performing really, really well, but keeps the
They've got to
mission,
align.
yeah, keeps the mission aligned with the people and the business.
Mhm.
Okay,
That's it.
wonderful. So I feel like that sounds like a deeper understanding of the purpose and how people really go into a company rather than just, at least in today's world, just for, hey, I want to have a secure job. It's like, how can I actually also get energy from the job? How can I learn something at the job? How can I uh, develop myself rather than just
Mhm.
making money? And do you see that shift, that this is happening just just now, or has it been for a while already? This towards, okay, marrying the missions is becoming a
Yeah.
crucial part.
I haven't been alive for centuries, so I always have trouble saying these days because I don't
Mm,
know. Or like back in the old days, it was like this. I don't know. I wasn't here. I have no idea. But I can say that people have been around for a long time, and I suspect that people who feel supported by their organization and feel like they're doing things that are aligned to their mission. I have a feeling that humans have always liked that. Have always would have always preferred that, and maybe the conditions weren't available for it. And I wonder if there has been a change, the change might be that more humans can see that it's possible for them to do work that aligns to their personhood. And so if I see it's possible, I might ask for it a little bit more.
yeah,
I didn't know I could ask for an extra scoop of ice cream. I can do that. I'm gonna start doing it from now on. I feel like maybe it's something like that.
yeah. And what do you mean by having capacity or holding a capacity to go to the next level. I heard you saying
Mhm.
that as well, and I'm curious about it.
So I think about, so a lot of what I do is really operations, what I call operations. To me, a business has two parts. It has getting the clients, getting the work, and holding the work. Or another way is we make promises and we keep promises. And so operations, the work that I do is more about keeping the promises. And so I want to expand the capacity of an organization to hold and keep more promises. So the
Hmm.
sales team goes out and the business team goes out and they invite more and more clients. But at some point, the company, the organization can't handle that, can't do that. So scale is expanding the capacity, the ability to hold all that new work and keep all of those new promises.
That's fascinating. So actually, what you mean by capacity is expanding the ability to actually keep promises, to have more abilities in terms of sales, in terms of maybe finance, in terms of people management. So expanding what
Yeah.
is possible. Yeah.
In my brain, I have the visual of a bucket, of a bigger bucket.
Yeah.
I can just hold more.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, very, very simple. That you just are able to do more by what does it mean? Is it like getting more people on board, creating better processes? What is that?
hmm
There's more.
So from the organization view, yeah, it's how do we make a bucket that's actually expandable? From a founder or leader view, I would call it leverage. And so an early stage founder, an early stage leader uses the leverage of themselves, their intelligence, their charisma, the energy that they have, the passion that they have, their ability to put their hands in every part of the operation. That's the leverage, the weight. I almost think of like of a seesaw, a childhood toy where the child's on one side and lifts up the other side. So the founder's the child who sits on one side and lifts up the other side. That's the leverage. And so scale is you leveraging something other than the founder, other than the leaders, other than the first team, the first 5 to 20 people. And so that can be roles that are repeatable, scalable roles. So the positions in the company that we can actually just add more and more and more of. It could be automations. It can be knowledge. It can be outsourcing. So it can be a number of things, but it's essentially moving because the original team, they're human beings. They can only stretch so far. So it's making it so the overall impact is lifted up less and less by their weight in ratio and more by a little bit of their weight and a lot of weight of other things that are expandable.
And why is that so important to take off the weight of the founder or one person for them and maybe the organization? Why is that so?
So it's important if your goal is to expand your impact on the world. And it's important if your goal is to build something bigger than yourself. That's when it's important. So does that mean it's important for every leader of every company ever? I don't think so. There's something called, for example, a lifestyle business. A lifestyle business is I do the work that I like and it supports the lifestyle that I want, and that's enough. How expensive is a good lifestyle, right? It's not cheap, but it's not expensive. You don't need to impact the whole world. You don't need to impact a whole country. You don't need to be a multimillionaire necessarily to just support the lifestyle you want with the work that you like. So it's not important for everybody. It's important for those of us who desire to expand their impact and what they're doing in the world to something bigger than just them. Because no matter how good a yogi I am, no matter how far I can stretch, there is a limit. I see people, I can juggle 2 balls. Some people can juggle 17, but once you get past that, you can't juggle anymore and you need help. And so that it's really dependent on what your goals are. It's important if your goals are to do something bigger than you.
Okay. And I remember also one post that you had where it was about reflecting what you actually want to do with a business. And for anyone who has started their business or is gone to maybe even a remote leadership position, so you can
Mhm.
do whatever you want essentially, but still get caught up in work and the stresses. And one important thing that I think you mentioned there is reflecting on why you did that in the beginning.
Mhm.
And why do you talk about that? Because it's like, it sounds like you just want to scale businesses, you want to make money, for more money for them. But why is that important to know why?
When when leaders come to me, they've been at their business for a few years usually, and they've gotten into the operational grind. They wake up and they put out fires, and they're either saying, I I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be putting out fires. That doesn't make sense. That's not my job to get to the next level. Or they're saying, I'm bringing in clients and the clients are falling off. I don't know what to do. I'm bringing in new team members and the new team members are falling off. That nothing seems to be sticking beyond a certain point. And we talk about what they want, and they say, I want a company that functions better and gets bigger and maybe makes more money. Okay, well, that takes work and that takes change and it kind of takes being a different person. Um, a founding executive is 25% of in the public. Let me just start the sentence over.
Yeah.
Of companies that IPO, the executive, the CEO, is 20% of the time the founding CEO. That means 75% of the time it's not. To go from founding CEO to, say, IPO CEO, big difference. You have to be a different person. It's a different person. And either that founding CEO rides along for that and makes the shift and acts very different than they did when they started, or they give up that position and they take a different position. So you have to change. You have to change the way you're doing things. You might have to change some of your beliefs to do this journey. It's a lot of work. So if I just come to you and say, okay, do these tactics, well, you can do that for a few months, but then you go back to the old habits or you don't feel like it or you don't see what the point is. But if we take a step back and say, why did you start this? Why did you start this? What were you hoping would happen? Did you want a different life for yourself? Do you want the world to be different? If that's what you're up to and you know it and you remember it, you might be more motivated to make the necessary changes and to sustain them. You can keep your eyes on the mission. It makes the change a little less painful or allows you to see beyond the what's happening in this season. It can be really tough to go through a season of change. And if I can't imagine what's on the other side of it, it may not feel like it's worth the work and I may give up on it. So that's one of the reasons it's important for us to make the change. You have to know why you're doing it so that you'll keep doing the work as we move through this season, this process.
Yeah, so really understanding not only just running the tactics and the how-tos and going through the day-to-day and to-do lists, but actually knowing the motivation behind it. Because as I understand it, that's how you actually long-term can keep doing what you love and keep doing what you do, to have the energy even to do that.
I think so. And I think it's so funny because there's so many like TED Talks and books and they talk about vision
Mm-hmm.
and you need to have a vision. And I feel like it's not always clear as to why. And because it's like, maybe that'll inspire people to join you on your vision. But I think it needs to inspire you. And I don't necessarily need someone to have a vision and a mission statement on their website, but it's really helpful to have a reminder of why you're doing this big work. Because you don't have to. We can stop anytime, right? There's nothing wrong with saying, you know what? This whole running a company and making a new impact on the world and the stress of it and the change of it and me having to be maybe a slightly different person, not worth it. I'll just go back to working a job. It's a lot easier. I don't have to do marketing. I don't have to do accounting. I don't have to deal with employees. I don't have to deal with clients. I got one boss who brings in the sales and just tells me what to do and I do it. and life is easy and I get a paycheck. There's nothing wrong with that. That's nice. That can be a very nice life. And so what keeps us going? And as long as we have a mission that makes sense to us, that we can align to and help other people align to, we'll keep going. And when we don't, when the mission gets lost or it's just not so interesting, why do it? Why not do something a little easier and a little more pleasant?
Now, obviously, the question is, what keeps you going? What is the thing? What's your mission to keep going and help businesses find their mission and be more, I guess, scalable? Is that the right way of
Mhm.
saying it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for me, it's fun. That's the number one thing. It's fun. I love it. It's fun to dig in with other people to what they're doing, what they're passionate about. Sometimes I have people ask me the opposite question, which is not why don't you go get a job? That's not exactly what you're saying. But why don't you start your own software or your own service or your own product? And I often say that's not. I'm just not passionate about that. I'm passionate about riding shotgun in other people's missions. It's so fun being helping to be the navigator, helping to what would you say, calibrate the tools is fun for me. And so a lot of it's the fun of it, and then it's, can I change the world in my own little way? I love to be with leaders and not just have the tactics conversation, but the relational conversation as well. And I think that changes the world. When I help a leader with some of the relational elements of this journey, they change and their relationships with all the people around them change. And to me, there's a ripple effect on the world that I get to be a part of. And that's so fun for me. I'm also excited. I'm on my way to beginning to build a fund. And so building a fund means not just not just supporting people with strategy and that kind of movement, but also bringing in financial support and allowing that to be shared. And right now, I'm working on a small suite of software that basically takes my techniques, takes the disciplines that I've learned and I give to other people, and allows people to do it more on their own. Allows people like me, doing work like me, to take it and make their jobs easier. And so in that way, I get to expand my little thumbprint on the world. So I'm just have things that I'm excited about, and it's hard to walk away from it when you can taste it and touch it, and that's what's motivating to me.
So you are building a software company right now.
Yeah. And I thought I got away from it. I was 10 years of tech in Silicon Valley, and then I came out and, I started consulting, and I assumed I'd be in software. And then I found that the principles of scale and the principles of teamwork and operations, they apply to any growing company, not just software. And more people invited me out of software consulting. Um, and so I was almost fully out, and then I got pulled back in when I realized that what I'm doing can really be of service to others who are doing the work that I'm doing.
So you're helping now consultants to be better consultants with your software suite.
Yeah, exactly. So what I'm building does a couple of things. One, it streamlines some of the homework and some of the consulting that I do with my own clients. So first of all, it benefits me. And what I'm beginning to find is the particular tools that I'm using are good for attracting clients and guiding them early and retaining them as clients. So, an example is we're creating the gap map. And the gap map is a way for founders and leaders to go through their delivery process, and they can do it with help or on their own. But if a leader takes the gap map, fills it out, we'll transform that into a visual. So it starts out as basically something like a spreadsheet, and it transforms into a visual so you can actually see the flow of who's doing what in the organization and work with someone to begin to discover the gap. So we'll give out the gap map, we'll transform that into a flow that's visualized, and then we can sit in a discovery session and just talk about what the gaps are and how close you are to closing them to allow scale to happen, the foundations of scale to happen. And maybe even if it's your goal to get you closer to sale, so scale or sale. And And not only is that a fantastic tool for anyone to use and see who's running a company, but for people like me, it's an opportunity to open up about the kind of ways that we can support.
Oh, fantastic! It sounds super eye-opening. I can imagine to just put in the details that you have that you know, and then have in a bigger scheme or a bigger from like a bird's eye view how these things actually work and how they're connected or
Hmm.
not. I love
You
to
can
do
just
that.
see it.
What?
You're able to just see it with
Yeah.
your eyes, which is something that I didn't exist before, and now it does.
Yeah, instead of just running through your mind and having like juggling those
Hmm.
17 balls as you had in the air, you can't really
Hmm.
focus on each individual ball or even the bigger picture. You're just like with the next one going on. And so with
Yeah,
that tool, it's more gets you an overview and sees, okay, what is actually happening, the bird's eye.
yeah.
And
A tool like this does, just to share, a tool like this does four things for you. It creates a critical conversation about what's actually happening in the org because you can see it rather than just have it in your head. It's a roadmap for how we are going to improve our delivery process. So it looks like this now. It will look like this in the future, and you can see the difference and track the difference. It becomes an internal checklist and the standard for how we deliver. So it's a tool for when I'm onboarding new teammates. It's much easier to say, this is how we do it. And can become a customer artifact to show them their own journey. It can become something a little bit like your pizza order tracker or where's my Uber uh, for your customers. So it can be this tool that really rides along with you and it expands to support not just your strategy, but also how the people in your company understand your company and how your customers understand your company.
so in a way, it creates a lot of transparency between
Hmm.
all different kinds of people, like the all different kinds of stakeholders, to make sure that you know what's going on and every side of it, not just like one person that can overlook it, but each angle has their own almost dashboard to know, okay, this is going on. The Uber is arriving in
That's
five
right.
minutes, and everybody knows in different angles. Okay, this is what's happening.
That's the idea. That's what you can get to.
Wonderful. And this is something you already built, or it's still in the process, or how's that? How far is that?
The prototype's available now, so I'm open to receiving a handful of people who would like to try it out as we do the prototype. It's in line with the consulting we've been doing for 5 years now. It's the first time that we're trying to automate and streamline the process so that a person can do it more independently.
Okay. I still have a bunch of other questions, but you can already drop
Sure.
if how or if people can reach you if they're interested in
Yeah.
it.
So, I mean, the best way to learn about me is on my LinkedIn profile. So it's linkedin.com/in/Alex Salinsky, my name on LinkedIn. And then the gap map and resources around those tools are being built now at risecoo.com.
All right, these are all in the show notes. Let's see them already. And but now let's shift still a bit because I have a bunch of other questions about stuff that I saw on your profile and everywhere else, which is you got a tattoo from your teacher in I believe Muay Thai.
Hmm.
Can you tell me a bit about that? How that came about? And I didn't know you were doing Muay Thai. So what was the journey towards that, and how did it come to the tattoo?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't my idea.
Okay.
um, I have this theory that I'd like to live a lifetime in a decade, every decade. And I do that by giving myself little missions. And so one of them was Muay Thai. I went to I went to Thailand the first time when I was working in India. I just kind of went to explore for a weekend. And then I went from Asia back home to my office back home in California, what was home then. And I found out about the Sakyat tattoo, which is done by the hand. So it's not done by a machine. It's poke, 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 poke. Every little dot is done by hand. And I said, oh, how am I just figuring this out now while I'm on the plane back to the US? And I said, if I ever go to Thailand again, when I go again, I'm going to get one of these things. So I showed up 3 years later, and I told my friends I have to do this. They went with me. We found a monk to give the first tattoo. So the one that you're talking about is the second tattoo. The first tattoo, and I got that, and it was great. We gave cigarettes to the monk, and that's how it happens.
That's how you pay them
And
with cigarettes.
well, you pay him money, but also it's like this tradition too. Something about like the spirits of the world like tobacco. I've learned
Hmm.
from all my travels and all my like work in some of these spiritual traditions and ceremonies. Tobacco is always welcome. I don't know why.
I think at least what I
And
learned
uh,
in Peru, it's uh, well, it is a sort of medicinal and spiritual plant that helps
mhm,
to uh, sort of cleanse from any bad spirits and
yeah,
has also quite some wisdom. I noticed a person who was training to become a shaman who was like dieting with tobacco. That means she was
mhm,
smoking almost all day these super thick cigarettes, and at the same time uh there was what was it, like sort of an oil of tobacco.
yeah.
So they produce it
Mhm.
themselves, and then she was eating that at the same time as well to get the
Wow.
insides from tobacco, which
I
sounded fascinating to me.
Yeah, I'm fascinated that it shows up in traditions around the world. And so if you're in South America, they have well, they have many, but in the spiritual traditions of South America, tobacco can be a big part of that. In the spiritual traditions of North America, tobacco shows up a lot in the form of, for example, like a pipa, kind of like peace pipe, in the red trail there, from a lot of indigenous America, North America. And then in Thailand, we're giving out cigarettes to the monks. And so it's fascinating to me is that it seems to be worldwide, a worldwide phenomenon that tobacco is known to be this spiritual beneficial plant,
Yeah, very
just
interesting. Okay.
independently. It's
Yeah,
funny when things show up independently around the world. It's like, where does that come from?
makes
I
me
wonder if uh
yeah, makes me really wonder whether there's some sort of shared understanding or shared
uh
knowledge of plants or the environment or something like that.
yeah,
Maybe stuff like the Carl Jung was like the collective unconscious, or just
uh-huh,
like the spirit realm that is speaking to other people just independently of location, right?
yeah. This
So,
is the kind of thing that I've just in my own trying to rationalize the world, I just go, you know what? Mm, in the past 5 years, I've been around different kinds of spiritual communities, and I've invited people to join me, and they'll ask me questions about what's going on, and I'll say, well, the spiritual people say this, and I don't have evidence for whether it's true or not, but they say that. And so I'm just made peace that I won't know, and I'm going along with it. And this is one of those things where it's just like I haven't been to a spiritual realm knowingly, and so I don't know, but I'm open to that as a possibility.
but what is your, because you are spiritual in a way, the way we talked about it also in the beginning, working on believing
Yeah.
magic and all that stuff was already touching spirituality in a way. So what is your
Mhm.
connection with spirituality at the moment?
I feel like I'm in a very long practice of getting closer and closer. I think there's it's like an alignment, and there's alignment. It's I'm processing how to articulate what it is because I don't know the answer. Um, we There's a path forward toward an end that, and there may be no end on the path. So there's a path that moves forward, and does it end? I don't know. And it all seems to be moving toward the same destination. And I think it's all one path. I think people say like different spiritual traditions and religions are different paths to the same place. I think they're actually all the same path. And like the various like dogmas and nuances that are different are just like distractions or flavors or style choices of how you walk that path. Um, and so I guess my spirituality is trying to be on path more than off path
Hmm.
and keep turning toward like progression down the path that may never end.
How does it feel to you when you are on path in comparison to off the path?
I'm learning to feel it in my body, in my emotions, that I can notice the difference and I can go, oh, this decision came up, or what I'm up to here um, feels different. It feels different than when I'm more on path, or like, yeah, I can feel it more and more now.
Is there
Yeah, I know it's vague because I may be intentionally vague.
okay?
Yeah, just because I feel like everyone's personal. I feel like it's tempting to get prescriptive and say what works for me works for other people, and I
Hmm.
don't know that it does. But more and more, I'm a person. I used to think I didn't really have emotions or a big emotional range, and now I'm like, oh, I do have emotions. I just didn't know how to feel or notice them. I didn't know how to observe that they existed, or that emotions are related to physical sensations. And that if I have access to the physical sensations, if I don't have access to understanding emotions, I can start to understand the physical sensations of emotions. And I can then see emotions more clearly. And then those physical sensations and those emotions are telling me something about the situation I'm in, for example, and my relationship with it. And then I can start to say, I'm feeling really angry, for example, and if I'm feeling really angry, rather than just act out on angry toward whatever's around me, I can then start to say, what's my anger with? And what is it really about? Am I angry with the situation and the context I'm in, or am I angry with myself for something? Or am I angry with this person because they did something dangerous? Am I angry because I feel unsafe? Am I angry because I'm acting out of alignment with my true self or with my values? What's the anger coming from? And so I feel like that's actually a spiritual conversation. Um, and so that's how I'm starting to learn what on path and off path is. So when I start to notice that stuff happening inside of me, I can start to say, "Ooh, how can I clean that up?" And it's not to wash away those emotions, but it's just like, what kind of cleaning needs to happen here? Because I
Hmm.
probably don't have to be angry here. There are probably other things I can be, but what is anger telling me? Or what is this like? I feel like my body closes. What is that telling me?
Yeah.
What could that be revealing to me about my experience in the world? And then how can I understand my experience in the world better and then make decisions about it?
So how I see that, or how I hear that from you, is understanding how emotions and our physicality, or the physics in your body work, and then you sort of go from that level to understand what is actually going on. And the deeper you go, the more reflective you are, the deeper things are. That's how you connect to your spirituality. Is that
Maybe. Yeah, I mean
something that?
it seems like a tool that helps me walk that path.
Yeah,
I don't know if getting there is the spirituality, but it seems like a tool. Seems
yeah,
like a really important tool to doing the walk. I
yeah,
walk better.
and especially when you notice that, because I don't know, at least where I grew up, and I think here also from a lot of men that I'm working with as clients, is this, like, I don't know really how those things feel. I don't know what
Mhm,
emotions are present right now, but I have thoughts about it. I get weird thoughts, or I get like scenarios in my mind. So a lot is
mhm.
primed towards the mind, and if it's not very clear which emotion, almost the nature of emotions, it's not very clear or rational as we would like it to
Yeah.
be. Then it's really hard to act based on it. It's really hard to understand it, and I
Mm,
think there's something that this uncertainty, or not, emotions are not really clear, that at least especially men are sort of either pushing it away, have learned to push it
mhm,
away, to suck it up in some way. And so a very eye-opening thing to do, or almost rebellious way to do as a man, is to actually understand and feel those emotions and
Yeah.
let them be noticed. Not to do anything with it, but just to notice them, just to
To
put
observe.
attention on
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. I've learned some things like that in the last few years. One of them is the 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 hack to the observation, a hack to the observation. If you're a person who doesn't like feel emotions or doesn't feel things in your body yet, um, one hack is open and closed body language. So if you're in a situation, you notice that your arms are crossed, your shoulders are hunched, you're a little more in a closed position. Closed being like I'm. Uh, I kind of imagine as like some part of me is curling over my stomach. The weaker, almost like it's almost a little closed body language is similar to protective stances. I'm protecting myself from a physical blow. That's what's weird about it. And so our body represents protection or closing off or, and we might do that if we think we're expecting physical danger. And it seems like we do it if we're expecting or experiencing emotional danger. And
Mm.
then open body language is I'm safe, I'm open, maybe excited. And if every now and then you can check in on what's the posture here?
Mm-hmm.
Is it closed or open? And does that mean something? It might not mean anything, but it might. And
Yeah.
so does it mean when I'm standing here in a new place and I'm putting my hands in front of me, my arms in front of me, I'm crossing my arms, that might mean that I'm just putting my arms in a comfortable place, but it might mean that I'm not totally comfortable here. And like just like you said, like it's okay to just observe that. You don't have to do anything about it, but you can just go, "Oh, I'm not totally comfortable here." Or you're having a beautiful, brilliant conversation and you're using big, expansive hand gestures and you're standing with your chest and your stomach out in front of you. That's in a more open thing. And you can go, oh, I'm feeling open here. Does that mean happy, excited? Does that mean something? I don't know. Right. Maybe it does, but at least I can observe this is a place where I can feel open. This is a place where I seem to feel more closed. This is a conversation where I'm noticing I'm tensing. My body's tensing. My muscles are tensing. My body turns into a position where I want to run,
Mm-hmm.
right? What something's going on here that I don't like. Okay. What do you do with that? I don't know, but you notice it.
And you start making connections over time
Hmm.
when you notice this over and over again. One thing I don't know, like a couple of months ago, I noticed very clearly that I'm almost sometimes chronically lifting my shoulders just a slight bit, just a
Mm,
little bit, except when I'm fully aware, when I'm really relaxed. Then I
yeah.
notice they completely drop. But otherwise, they just marginally lifted, and I notice, oh, that creates a little bit of tension in my body,
Yeah.
just as a baseline. And those little things you can only notice once you really put attention to it and focus on it. One thing I understood or learned through meditation is that when you
Mhm.
put your focus on something, more and
Yeah.
more will be revealed. Like you will be able to see more and more and
Mm-hmm.
more. When you start driving the same path to work, we get quite often
Yeah.
blind towards all the things that are happening or that,
Hmm.
that are passing by. But if you focus on every single day on the same thing passing by, you will see more and more and more. And same way
Yeah.
with that, with the emotions, with understanding your mental patterns, with understanding your body. The more attention you put on it, the more you will see.
I love that. I think that's right. It's really this game of, oh, there you are. Oh, you're there again. Like what that kind of thing. Like the shoulders are up. Oh, my shoulders are up again. Oh, there it is again. Oh, there it is again. Oh, there you are. And it can be a really neutral observation. So it's not to make it positive, like how fun. And it's also not to be like, damn it, why are they, put the shoulders back down. That's not the point of it. I don't think it's to go, there you, I notice you. I notice you there again. I notice you there again. Huh. And then, yeah, you start to make this connection of, oh, my shoulders seem to be up when, this situation reminds me of the last time my shoulders were up. And you just begin to see it more clearly. And then maybe you're not so worried about how your shoulders look or how your shoulders are, not that you were, but you start to go, oh, these situations mean something to me. What do these situations mean to me? Because I'm reacting in a similar way. So they have a similar meaning. What might that meaning be?
Yeah, so you're really deep in understanding what circumstances create something in you, what perceptions or
Hmm.
beliefs you might have about those situations. And that's
Yeah.
effectively the starting point of your self-reflection and going deeper,
Mhm.
understanding yourself and being able to eliminate those patterns if they're maladaptive, they're not helping you.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I think awareness really helps, and it's like, I'll actually I'm trying to think of a public example, but I think sometimes when I stop myself because I made an observation about a behavior or about a behavior that's possible. Maybe I read a book or had a conversation, and I noticed that, like, I might have a tendency to, whatever it is, be tempted to, um, uh, I've found that I can be very persuasive, and a long time ago, and I found that, especially when I'm excited and confident in something, and if I talk to someone saying, "Let's do this," and I'm excited and confident, there are some people who can respond to that and with real yeses and real nos. So when they say yes, they mean yes, let's do it. I'm excited to. When they say no, they mean I don't want to do that. And there's some people who are at a place where they will respond to that with yes, whether they mean it or not, because my confidence and excitement can feel overwhelming. And so they feel like they must say yes because there's such an intensity of of emotion. And so I've learned to, and I'm learning to notice what kind of where a person's at that I'm talking to. If they're the kind of person who will say, who are really with it and being like, yeah, I'm all in, or if they're maybe saying yes because it feels like they ought to. And then I'll pull myself back and I'll say, hey, I have a habit of steamrolling some people sometimes, and I don't want to steamroll this. I don't want to get my way through the force of my loudness and
Hmm.
excitement. I want to actually have you be on my side or not be on my side. And I don't want to twist your arm into this. If you're interested in doing whatever it is, I want you to do it because it's exciting for you. And if it's not exciting, then let's not, do it. And I can pull back that energy a bit. So one is I can say it aloud because I know it's aloud. I know it's real now. So I can say it in my mind and I can even say it aloud to another person. I can name it.
Yeah.
And when I name something, then we can do something with it. And that's been really helpful because one is I get real commitment. When I get commitment, it's a real commitment. It's not a you twisted my arm or I feel uncomfortable. That's one. And the other is I can promote safety. I can promote people feeling safe around me. I can be a safer person in the world. And that's nice because the world can feel scary and unsafe sometimes for some people, for a lot of us. And so if I notice that particular thing in myself, I have the ability to overwhelm some people, then I can start to realize that and pull back. And other people around me who might feel overwhelmed by me normally can feel a little safer.
And it sounds like you have this ability to be confident about your ideas and know exactly where to go next. Has that always
Well,
been?
if it's a good idea,
Okay, okay.
it's obvious. And that's the energy.
But
So
but, but
sometimes
have you
that
also
energy
been
is
on the
too
other
much.
side where you noticed you have been steamrolled by somebody, or where you were a little insecure or indecisive about something and noticed, oh, I don't know what to choose right now. I'll just go with whatever the dude was saying in front of me. Have you been on the other side too?
I think a strong voice is something that is developed at different times. And I developed my strong voice pretty early on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think other people take a little longer or to do that. And so my yeses have been yeses and nos, nos. I check on that a lot and it's been like that for a long time. So I don't have that experience as much. I have other experiences, I'm sure, of places where I don't feel totally comfortable. I feel like something is too much. Um, and I kind of shrink away from something rather than just give a hard no. Um, but yeah, yeah, I just think different people have different experiences in the world, and understanding that people are different than me is enough right there just to go, some people aren't going to act the same way I do. Or another example is in a group setting with a big group, if there's an opportunity to share, I'm very good at saying, I have an opinion. I want to share something and just jump out with it. And I'm learning like I don't need to do that all the time. And I just think, do I need to share here? And can I help make space for other voices? Or I don't mind sharing last because I will share. And some people uh, uh, will not take the invitation if someone's already taking the invitation ahead of them, and they'll say, "Well, that person's talking, so I won't talk." So I know that I have a voice and a personality where I'll interrupt anytime at all. So there's no reason that I have to be first. What I know, if I have something to say and I want to jump in, I'll do it. So I can wait till the end because I will. I, for whatever reason, I'll make sure my voice is heard if I want it to be heard. So I've got no problem with that. So I've learned, okay, well, my voice doesn't always need to be heard. It doesn't need to be heard right now. And so just to kind of allow for people to practice their strong voice ahead of me or to invite other people to do it has been, again, a way of being a nicer energy in the world.
I love that self-reflective reflectiveness of that part, because you noticed what you were doing and you were checking in. Hey, is that how I want to be perceived? But what I also hear
Mhm.
in that is that you, with yourself and others, are very clear, open, and honest, like upfront. When you don't like somebody, when you don't like the idea, you're like, nope, that's not it. When you do
I try to
agree,
be.
yeah.
Yeah. I try. It doesn't always work, but that's my intention. And they're definitely, and more there, I, not more and more, but I'm more intentional too about like, I'm thinking a lot now about closing open loops. So an example might be I made a commitment to myself and I'm not doing it. That's an open loop. So either I'm gonna end that commitment by getting the work done, or I'm gonna say I shouldn't. I'm gonna renegotiate the commitment as an example. Um, but I have like a habit I'm working out of like if someone makes a request of me and I don't need to respond to it right away or I want to think of it, I'll let the request sit for a while. And it's like I could at least say, give me a moment to think about it. So I got things that I'm working on too, with that to be more consistent. Cause that's an example of I'm being unclear. Um and there's this phrase to be unclear is to be unkind
Hmm.
that I like. So I'm not being nice to someone by being vague, and I'm not being nice to someone by waiting till I feel better about what I'm gonna say. Sometimes I am. Um, I'm not being necessarily being nice to someone by saying maybe when I mean no or yes when I mean no. It's not being kind. It's being like dishonest. And it's a manipulation. So when I say something with compassion, if I say no to somebody when someone wants to hear yes, and that'll the way I say it also counts as the kindness. So it's like to give an honest answer with compassion.
Do you still have a little bit of time, or should we wrap it up soon?
Yeah, I got a few more minutes.
Okay, okay, nice. Because I find it super interesting right now. This
Yeah,
your
I should
perception
duck out
of
maybe like 15 minutes before the hour. So in like
okay,
15 or
okay,
20 minutes.
yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. Okay, um, because this is, I think, a uh very essential part when it comes, especially to people who are being doubtful or insecure. Is, oh, I don't know yet. I shouldn't say anything yet, or I can't commit
Mm,
to something. And then just rather leave it open, or not say something, or stay in this insecure part.
mm,
And I think that is such a when you're in such a limbo, you're not helping yourself because you're not clear. Maybe you need 3 more weeks to finalize that, but then you say, okay, in 3 weeks I can think about it or finish it or say it or have
mm,
my mind made up about it. But if you don't, then both parties, if somebody's waiting for your response, are then in this uncertainty if you're not responding or if you're not doing something. And I feel like this is part of taking responsibility of how you interact with the world around you and yourself. And I think what I
yeah.
mean by that is when you want to make a decision for your life or about your life, and let's take a an example of creating a habit for yourself. When you say, okay, I
Mm,
want to go for the gym or to the gym and do that this amount of time, and you have somebody to sign up with you and say, okay, I'm going to join you.
yeah.
and you're like, yeah, I'm not sure when to start. I'm not sure like
Mm,
what exactly I want to do there. So let's maybe push it out a little bit further. I'm not sure whether the gym is the right thing for me. I'm not sure whether this particular gym. I'm not sure whether, lifting weight is the right thing for me. And what happens then is this uncertainty creates the difficulty for you and the other person who's joining you in
yeah,
the gym. And just because you are doubtful or you have the difficulties with it. And so there is
yeah,
this part which I find amazing about this honesty part, that even though we don't want to say it sometimes because it feels, or we have to admit something, we have to be very clear with ourselves, but it is the part that is, or the right decision in many cases, to be very clear that I don't know
hmm
right now, or I'm struggling with it, or I will
yeah.
know in 3 months, but not right now. That could be it too, but
And you're,
yeah.
yeah. In your scenario, I feel like there are two things happening at the same time. So one is the communication with the other person. We said we're doing this thing. I said yes, but then I'm backing into a maybe, or I'm not communicating anything at all because I have this uncertainty. So one is the communication. You can say, I have questions that I need answers to before I say yes to this. Um, but who are the questions for? Are the questions for the other person? Or are the questions for yourself? Because if you're not confident, if it's not the right thing, like, does that matter? So are you asking those questions because you actually need the answers to whether this is the right kind of workout? Or are you asking those questions because you're afraid to work out and you don't really want to? Because you know how you find out if something's going to work? You work it. You find out by going to find out. I don't know if this way of lifting weights is the right way for me to exercise. Well, how will you know? You go lift the weights and you see if it's the right way for you to exercise. That's how you find out. So that's an internal thing. And then I don't know if I want to put my internal thing on other people all the time or the same people all the time. I want to be careful. So the person that I'm talking to, I might have communication with them might be, you know what? I was initially excited about this idea. I need to check on some things in myself. I hear this phrase a lot that I think I like, which is like I need to feel into it. I need some time just to to feel into it to see what my intuition says or what I like about this. So one is renegotiations allowed, and it could be, hey, I need a little time to feel into this fully. I was excited in our first conversation. Now that I'm really thinking about how it'll fit into my life, I just need a moment to feel into it. That's the communication to the other person. And then the internal communication is, I guess I'll feel into it. Am I feeling hesitant about this because I don't want to do it with this other person maybe? Am I feeling hesitant because I'm nervous about what it's like to do exercise? Am I feeling hesitant because right? So, yeah, and that's what I say in the beginning, like, it's relationship with others, it's relationship with self. I went for a while when I was living in San Francisco to something called nonviolent communication, which is a terrible name for a wonderful framework connecting. And and I would say it's even less about communication the way we think about it, which is I want to be heard. I communicate better, then you will understand me better and I will be understood. I feel like a lot of times that's what we actually want out of communication for other people to understand us. And a lot of what nonviolent communication is actually understanding the other person and understanding yourself and you understanding the other person. There's not maybe like 30% of it is you being understood by the other person. And so the teacher that I worked with would say 90% of connection is self connection. And so a lot of the reason we feel like we can't connect with other people or clearly communicate with other people when we're feeling ways like, I don't know, I feel a weird way. I can't give it to you because I don't even know what's going on inside of me.
And the wonderful thing with that framework is also that you have to separate what happened, how you feel about it, and what you wish then,
Mm,
and then the request to the
yeah,
other person. And I feel like one of the best things that happens with that framework is that you understand better what you actually want. Because
yeah,
that is quite often a big part that you don't understand without preparation, like without thinking it through.
yeah,
That, oh, it's not that you want the other person to take out the trash, It's
Hmm.
that you actually want to feel that they take care of you, that they think of you, or something like that. And then if you connect that, oh, they're not taking out the trash, that means they're not valuing our relationship, and then it all go in the long run goes down the drain. But it's actually the belief that you have behind it is, hey, I want the person to value the relationship. And if that's
Yeah,
not clear, then you have conflict for no reason.
huge.
Yeah.
We don't even know what we want a lot of the time. Yeah, it's uh I think from that framework I learned those two things. One is exactly that, like, I have to have a request. I don't even know what I want. If I don't even like, part of my problem a lot of times when I'm mad or upset at somebody is like I don't even know what I want from them. And so to pull back into myself and go, what do I even want here? There was a teacher of middle school students, and middle school students can get really impassioned, and they just, I'm so angry, I'm so angry. And she'll, to help them work through it, she'll say, what do you want to happen next? And the person who's angry will say, I want him to die. Right? Okay. But then after that, what do you want? What do you hope happens next? And they're like, I don't, what do you mean? Right? Complete de-escalation, because suddenly they have to move from like, what do I want? And it's just confusion and a little bit of loss to it. It's like, what's happening inside of you? What do you want? And then the other part of that framework, and we talked about it earlier, is to make a request. So once I figure out what I want, I can form it as a request. So I dealt with a lot of stuff inside of me. Now I know what the request I'm making is. I hope this happens because it would help me feel this way. Um, when I make a request, I can make it in such a way that I can hear a no.
Mm.
And so earlier when I was talking about, like, I had a habit of being really strong in my communication, maybe persuasive, maybe really being like, right? Isn't this great? Isn't this so exciting? And not allowing for a no. And now I will explicitly say, I can hear no. I can hear you say, this isn't exciting for you. You can tell me. And making that space for, some people, like I said, they can just say, no, I don't like it. Some people respond better to an invitation of, hey, no, I'm okay to hear a no here.
Yeah. Okay. Um, Now I want to still give you a little bit of time to check in. What is maybe something that you want a person who listened to the whole conversation about the honesty, the closing loops, the time travel, the should is an argument with reality, um, and all the whole business part of how you learn to delegate things, how you learn to create more capacity for yourself and for the company. What do you want them to take away from this conversation as the core message?
I hope that someone listening would hear that all of these things are connected, and that the more wholly and the more powerfully we can we can have an understanding of our actual experiences in the world and the experiences that we have with other people, the more whole and powerful we are in just anything that we do. And that's why when I work with people, it's definitely not a therapy session because I don't do that. But as we're doing things, I may touch on things like, is there a resistance here that goes beyond the logistics of doing the thing we're trying to do? Is there an emotional resistance here? Or is there something that is exciting here? Or is there a relationship inside the organization that's not quite what it ought to be? And should we take a look at that? Or is there a person here who could really use our support? Or the way we're going to have this conversation, is there a way we should have the conversation that considers the other person's humanity, that involves compassion? So it's not just let's get the job done. It's let's get the job done in a way that keeps us whole and real and true to our humanity.
That was a great summary. Do you now at the end have well, we already had the LinkedIn that people can
Mhm.
reach you there. Anything else that you want to share with somebody who is maybe doubtful, maybe has difficulties moving into the next step? So being
Mhm.
in this limbo or being unclear about himself, herself, or the future step, what would be your little piece of wisdom to that one person?
Mm-hmm. People are at different stages in their business journeys, and I'm I work with people usually at a specific level where they've come to a place where they have a team of 5 or more people, where they're bringing a certain amount of money in, something that can actually support someone like me to come in and help and grow that. Um, and so if we're at that level where I'm trying to actively get my company to work at a new level, to scale, to get bigger, to maybe even to sell the company. Um, I can help with that. And the resource I mentioned earlier, the gap map, is free to use and get started with and get a better sense of how far you are away from having a foundation that allows for scaling to happen. I think for anyone at all to take a look at what it is you're up to and why you're doing it. So if you're a person who's starting a business or thinking about work in a different way, remembering what it's for. And it's probably not just, let me make some more money. And it's probably actually not just independence and freedom and I don't want to work for corporate, right? There's probably something more to it. And so if you can take a step back and imagine, if this works, what is what is a boring Tuesday going to feel like in 5 years? Just a normal. A lot of times people say, what would life look like? And I imagine the coolest vacation ever. But if instead it's, what's just a normal Tuesday in my good life like? And what do people know me for? If it's like that, if we can see that, and then you can check to see if what you're doing is aligned to it and decide if you want to keep moving forward in the same way that you are. Maybe that will have you change the thing that you're up to, the actual thing you're doing, or maybe it'll have you change the way you decide to go about it.
Alex, it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you
Thanks,
so
man.
much.
It was fun. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
Now you can make a commitment to yourself and help others discover this podcast simply by subscribing and following the podcast on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. I hope to see you here soon again for the new episode dropping every other Thursday. Talk soon.